Today we're gonna make pumpkin spice cake donuts. They're everything you love about fall in a donut. All those pumpkin pie spice and pumpkin, and it's like this beautiful cake texture that's moist and delicate, but has that beautiful cinnamon glaze on the outside. Perfection. First step in cake donuts is to cream the butter and the sugar. So it's not a lot of butter, so you're really not going to get like that nice light fluffy texture. You're more looking for it to be like the consistency of sand. So we're gonna put our butter in our stand mixer, and we're gonna put our sugar, and then kind of start it on low because there's a lot of sugar in there, and just increase it. So while our butter and sugar hang out, we are gonna mix together our dry ingredients. This is AP flour. You can use pastry flour if you'd like. It would make it even better, but whatever you have on hand is what you should use. This is baking powder. Obviously that's our leavening here. And then this is pumpkin spice, so then like we have like all the spices. This is clove. This is mace. I'll link to in the description so that you can find it yourself. It's hard to find these days in the store for some reason. This is ginger, nutmeg. This is cinnamon. And then we've got kosher salt. And then we're gonna whisk them together. Ooh, spices, smell so good. We're gonna slowly add our egg yolks, and we're gonna beat those in there really well. So turn your mixer up. I mean, I add them about one at a time. It's not, don't stress about getting individual egg yolks in there. You want it to be nice and light and fluffy, so it's gonna be like super pale yellow. Meanwhile, while that's beating in, we are gonna mix together our pumpkin and our Greek yogurt. So this is actually 5% Farr. Like, I really like the texture and the flavor of that. Don't substitute regular yogurt, it's a little bit too loose. You can also substitute sour cream if you'd like. So I'm just gonna mix these together really fast just because it'll make it easier to get into my dough. Just kind of mix them together. Yes, okay. She's done. She's a beautiful light pale yellow, super light and fluffy. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna alternate adding our kind of like wet situation here and our dry ingredients. You don't want to overmix this, so you wanna make sure you're kind of constantly adding, but it's not really important what order they go in. So anyways, just kind of add your flour in here. And then you're gonna add like a dollop of your wet ingredients. Sometimes when I'm adding a lot, I like to stop my mixer, and that way I know it's not over mixing while I'm gathering myself and my ingredients. I'm gonna put the rest of my dry ingredients in, same time. Now the key here is that you do wanna mix it together. You don't wanna have like lots of dry bits, but you don't wanna overmix your dough either. So sometimes just scraping it, stopping to scrape it down is key. Okay, so I've got a nice dough in here. Before we put our dough onto our plastic wrap, we're going to flour our plastic wrap. This just helps it not stick later. So as I said before, there's a little bit of dry bits in the bottom that I'm just gonna work in with my dough, with my bowl scraper, okay? So you're just gonna like kind of mash it against itself. Take your dough, see it all came out nicely. Well, with the bowl scraper, and then plop it down. All right, there she is. Now you're gonna flour the top of your dough. And then you can push it down now. You can use the plastic wrap to do it. So you see how we're getting it a little flatter, and this is gonna help it chill faster, thus reducing the amount of time you have to wait before you eat a donut. All right, so we got our dough packet now. You can chill this overnight if you want at this stage, but I like to, if I'm gonna chill overnight and make it the day before, then I like to cut them first. I think it kind of speeds up the process in the morning. So we've got our dough packet. This is gonna chill for about 30 minutes, and then we'll roll it out. So we are ready to roll our dough. I've got my packet here, and then this baking sheet that I used to chill it on, I'm going to line with parchment and spray with cooking spray. And then we're gonna go ahead and flour our bench, just lightly because you already floured your dough, so you don't have to get crazy with it. And now I'm gonna roll out my dough. Since it's pretty much flat, this really isn't an arduous task. You're just gonna kind of press it out nice and gently to about 1/2 inch. So now our dough is nice and even, and we're just gonna take our dough cutter. I've got about 3-inch one, and this is like just shy of an inch, probably about 3/4 of an inch. It's usually just the smallest one that's in your set. So we'll just go through and we will cut all of our big ones, the big rounds. Should get about 12. And then we're gonna go ahead and cut the holes. You can do this when it's on the parchment if you want. If you find that your dough is sticking, then you can go ahead and take all of these out right now. Grab your donuts. And if there's like an excessive amount of flour, you can brush it off. A pastry brush will be good here too. I do like to cut extra donut holes because everybody likes donut holes. We are gonna wrap these really, really well in plastic wrap, and then we're gonna refrigerate them at least 2 hours. So I'm just gonna refrigerate these for about 2 hours, and then we'll get our oil ready. So about like 20-25 minutes left while our donuts chill. And while we do that, I'm gonna slowly start to heat up my oil. I'm just gonna turn that on to kind of a medium, like a medium-low heat. I'm gonna watch my thermometer. I've got a frying thermometer. You really want one that like clips onto the side. And then we're just gonna slowly heat our oil until it starts reaching around 340. And then I'm gonna start getting ready to actually fry. Because we're gonna fry around 350. So I'm gonna let this start to heat. And while that heats up, I'm gonna make my glaze. The glaze is super simple. I've got 10x in my bowl here. I'm gonna put a little bit of kosher salt in the sugar. It just kind of cuts the sweetness because obviously this is a lot of sugar. And then I'm gonna put about a teaspoon of cinnamon. You can omit this if you want just a plain glaze or if you want to add vanilla. And then I'm going to whisk that in, and then I'm gonna add my milk. Now this is variable, it's about 100 grams. You know, you can just kind of slowly add it until it gets to the right consistency. So just kind of slowly add your milk. And you want it to kind of run like that. Do you see how it runs nicely off of my whisk? It will also thicken up slightly as it sits, but you see how it runs nicely. It is time to fry. Okay, so my oil is at 345. Again, I want to fry around 355. I always like to heat it like a little bit higher when I am first going to add the cold dough because it is going to drop my oil temperature significantly. I've got a little kind of assembly line set up here. I have my chilled dough. I've got my spider, my wire kind of, you know, frying utensil. You can use a slotted spoon if you'd like. I've got my pot of hot oil, my thermometer that I am looking at all times, and I'm watching my oil temperature. I've got a plastic or parchment lined sheet tray here, and that's just to catch any oil or any stray glaze in case you want to reuse your glaze. You could do that. It also just makes cleanup so much easier. I've got a baking rack. And that's just to make sure that it catches the oils and the glaze, and that way you keep, you get a nice crisp donut and not a soggy bottom. And then lastly, I've got my glaze here, which I am going to dip my hot donuts in. Without further ado, we are at 355, and I am going to start adding my cold dough. I'm going to do it with my hands because I'm fearless, and I've been trained as such, but if you don't feel comfortable with that, you want to go ahead and place it in your spider and then kind of drop it delicately into the fryer. That's fine, you can do that. So they've all popped up and you can see I've got a nice spacing. Nobody's too crowded, nobody's upset, nobody's on top of each other. Let them breathe. So once they popped up, we're gonna wait like a minute and a half, and then we're gonna flip them over. and let them fry on the other side. They'll probably take like 3 minutes, depends on the heat of your oil and the thinness of your dough. But they'll probably take about 3 minutes each, you know, to fry each batch. All right, so I'm gonna flip them over. I like to let them do all the work for me, so I just kind of like touch and then allow them to flip on their own. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna flip them over. They're starting to get a deep golden brown on both sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and test them and see if they're done. And the way to do that is I just kind of pull one out and I insert a cake tester in the center, make sure that it goes, you know, all the way through, and that there you go. And then you start to pull them out. If you're in doubt, then you can always test each and every single one as you pull them out. There's no shame in that game. So we're gonna let them sit, we're gonna let them drip just a minute to cool down, just to touch so we can handle them, but also so that the oil drips off. We're gonna dip our first round of donuts. So just pull up your plastic wrap and grab your donut. They're still a little hot. If you would rather, you can heat your glaze rather than your donuts. You can dip cooler, but I like to just go ahead and, you know, dip them in there. We're tough. We got this. I'm dropping it in, and then I am spinning it around, making sure that every single angle is coated, and then I'm kind of lifting it up and shaking it off to get some of that extra back into the bowl. It's time to try. I'm excited. Are you excited? First of all, do you see this? She's so pretty, no? Yeah, she's pretty. Yeah. Do you see this? Do you see this? It's a beautiful color from the pumpkin. Oh, and you can see the spices. You get the pumpkin and all of those spices. It's basically like a donut version of pumpkin pie right here. Amazing. The cinnamon glaze on the outside, there's like a little bit of crispiness from the frying. It's just, these are divine. Absolutely divine.